Hey. Okay, so I just want to thank you all for the feedback, and I'm going to let you know this is going to be a story time with many parts. Many parts. And I also wanted to do a disclaimer about how I may look as I'm telling this story. If I'm smiling a lot, it's because I'm glad I'm free. If I show no emotions when I'm talking about some hard stuff, because I'm going to talk about some hard stuff further down the line. If I don't show emotion, it's because I am on antidepressants. And if anybody's been on them, you understand that it suppresses a lot of stuff. Hear water in the background, it's because I'm washing clothes. So let's get to part two. And I'm going to call this one the Pied Piper. If you know the story of the Pied Piper, you would know that he's a manipulator of children. And one thing about a lot of these cults that oppose these churches is that they house a lot of predators, both male and female. So part two is going to be called the Pied Piper. And that is what I'm going to call the cult leader's brother, who was also the grandson of Martha. I also want to give a disclaimer about Martha and her child who was an adult grandmother by this time, because Martha was like in her 70s or 80s. Neither one of them knew about this. Neither one of them were involved in this. As a matter of fact, as strict as Martha was about the church and how we had to dress, she had a heart for God, and she loved me. Her daughter loved me. Her daughter loved my mom. Okay, so I just want to get that out the way. She had no idea. So as I stated before, Martha started to get sick to where she couldn't preach no more. And she started going down, and she eventually passed away. Prior to her passing away, she was manipulated by the cult leader, and I'm going to tell you the name I had for him and his wife, to move him in a place of being a minister. He got ordained because he was called by God. The cult leader brother, as I call the Pied Piper, became very close to my mom. And at the time, I want to say he may have been in his 20s, and I wasn't even a teenager yet. I also want to say before I start talking about the Pied Piper is that he never touched me, but he most definitely groomed me. Because he thought I was going to be his wife one day. Yeah, right. So the Pied Piper used to hang up under my mother. She used to, and there was nothing like that going on. He would get my mom to pick him up from church. He could take my mother's car to go get us lunch in between services, because we didn't come home in between services. Oh no. When I say we left like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and we did not get back to 10, almost sometimes midnight. Yeah, we ate at church. And if we came home and ate home, we had to go back to church, okay? Even if we were sick, we had to go to church. You want to know why? Because the cult leader said that God would heal us. There's no need for medicine. Anyway, I'm jumping off topic. So the Pied Piper stayed, he would come to our house. He would ride bikes with us, ride bikes with me. One time he gave me a necklace. But this is where it gets real. The Pied Piper got off on me getting in trouble, and that was his way of grooming me, to show me that he can control what happened to me, which eventually it would have led up to me doing anything for me not to get in trouble. One thing I want to say about this cult is that they taught every parent in there not to spare the rod. There was no gentle parenting in there at all. Okay, so the Pied Piper would tell my mother I did things when I really didn't do them. And I would get in trouble. I would get punished. I would get fussed at. I would get spankings. And he knew it, and he would be happy about it. He would offer my mother the belt to spank me with. I wasn't abused. I will say that. He was just showing me, like, whatever I say, your mother going to believe me, and she's not going to believe you. Because I'm a man of God. Why wouldn't she believe me? Now, you're a child, and you got the devil in you. Every time you act up, the devil is in you. You're going to go to hell. You better get it together. The Pied Piper got off on that. Needless to say, he didn't get me. Thank God. But he stayed around for a while because he knew I was going to be his wife one day. Let's get to the cult leader. So now the cult leader has this church. This is where we started at. We had 2 churches after that. And on part 3, I'll show you the second church. I'm going to call the cult leader Ananias, and I'm going to call his wife, and I hope I'm saying his name right, Sapphira. And these 2 people are real. They're in Acts 5. Sapphira and Ananias were married. They pretended to donate all of their money to the apostles, but secretly kept part of the money for themselves, which eventually caused them to be, they were taken out. Basically, it was a spiritual front masking greed. And that's what this church was, a spiritual front masking greed. I'm taking deep breaths because what I'm about to tell you guys is very hard. So, at the age of 11, I was so depressed and so unhappy because I could not do anything. I couldn't hang out with my friends. I couldn't play. I sat on the porch most of the time. The cult leader and the Pied Piper had convinced my mother that I was fast. And because of the way I was shaped, I would entice men and something was going to happen to me. We had a store on our block called Benji's. And a lot of my childhood friends that's going to see this, they're going to remember this. I could not walk to the store by myself because I may have been enticing men because I had the devil in me. And by them looking at me, it would cause them to attack me. The store was literally not even a block from my house. And I grew up in a very nice neighborhood, family oriented. Everybody knew each other, but I still had to have somebody walk me to the store. I couldn't do anything. I had to sit on the porch. I couldn't hang out. I couldn't go to the movies because everything was of the devil. And because my body enticed people, I couldn't do it. I've always had a booty, not too much of breasts, and I think I look okay. And I was a pretty girl. But the cult leader and the Pied Piper had my mother thinking that I was hot and fast, and that's why I wanted to walk to the store. I walked in so much fear. I lived in so much fear. So because of all these things that were being done and making me feel like I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that, and if I did something, or if I snuck and did something, or did something that a child would do, like lie, I'm going to hell. So let's welcome in fear and anxiety. Because of all that, these 2 things were now on me. So at the age of 11, I was sitting in the house and I decided I'm going to take my life, because if I stay in this prison, I'm not going to make it. So I decided to take all these pills, and I went downstairs and told my mother I took a whole bottle of pills. I get to the hospital and I was not met with empathy. See, the enemy is everywhere. The doctors were being mean to me. The nurses were being mean to me and telling me, how could I do this? I come from a good family. Children would love to be in a family like mine. And I had to drink this stuff called liquid charcoal. And if you ever had to drink that, God help you. Like, your whole mouth looks like a galaxy without stars when you drink it. But I really wanted to take myself out because I was like, I don't want to live like this. I came from where we used to go to kiddie discos down Odell's with my aunt, and we would go bowling, and I can go to the movies, and we would spend the night over our friend's house. And I couldn't do that because they weren't in the life that we were, and my mother did not want me in the world of sin or being tempted by sin, or just anything. So I was like, I'm gonna just take my life. I can't take this no more. Well, needless to say, I survived. Thank God I survived. What I want to say about a lot of these cults, and I don't know if I said it at the beginning, is posed as churches, is that you have to be very careful when you go to church. Do your own research. Read your Bible. Don't believe everything you hear. If you're questioning something, do your research. Stop worshiping the person that's delivering the word and worship God. Ask God to lead you. Open your eyes. Open your ears. This is where a lot of the downfall came at, and that was my mother's downfall. So this is the end of part 2, the Pied Piper. I want to say I saw the Pied Piper when I became an adult, because he worked for MTA in Baltimore. And he saw me because he was driving the light rail. Let me say this quick because my time about to run out. Well, needless to say, he was like, oh, you was something else when you were little. You was fast. I'm glad you turned out okay. I say, yeah, I guess I was too fast because you wasn't able to manipulate me and do what you wanted to do, which